What did your child do that made you secretly proud even though you had to punish them? My 15-year-old daughter Dawn got suspended from school for releasing every single animal from the biology lab. I found out when 2 police officers showed up at my house during dinner asking if I knew where the animals were. Apparently Dawn had opened every cage and terrarium in the science wing during lunch period and then calmly walked to her next class like nothing happened. By the time anyone realized what she'd done, there were rabbits hopping through the parking lot and hamsters living in the ventilation system. The school was threatening criminal charges for destruction of property, and the biology teacher was demanding she pay for months of lost research. I spent that entire evening trying to get answers, but Dawn just kept saying she did what she had to do. This was completely out of character for Dawn. My daughter had never even gotten detention before this. She volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends and always turned her homework in early. The idea of her committing what the school was calling vandalism and theft made absolutely no sense. When I went into her room that night to try talking to her again, she was sitting on her bed staring at her phone with tears running down her face. "Dawn, please just tell me what happened," I begged her. "Tomorrow, Mom. I'll explain everything tomorrow when we meet with the principal. I promise it will make sense." I immediately emailed the principal to set up a meeting. I barely slept that night trying to figure out what could have pushed her to do something so extreme. When I got to the school the next morning, Dawn was sitting in a conference room with her arms crossed and her jaw set, looking determined. "Dawn, what were you thinking?" I asked quietly. "Someone had to do something," she said without looking away from Mr. Hensley. The biology teacher leaned forward with his face turning red. "Your daughter destroyed months of important research. Those animals were part of a study that could have been published in journals. She's ruined everything I've worked for." Mr. Hensley had taught at the school for 12 years and won some major teaching award last year. Everyone kept mentioning how much grant money he brought to the science department. "We need an explanation right now," I said to her. She took a deep breath and turned to face me. "Mom, he's been hurting them. After school, when everyone leaves, he takes them out and does these experiments on the animals. I've seen him." My stomach dropped and I started to feel sick. "What kind of experiments?" Dawn pulled out her phone and started scrolling through photos. "I stayed late the other day to make up a chemistry test and I heard noises coming from the bio lab. I looked through the window and he had a rabbit strapped to a table. He was testing how long it could go without food. I took pictures." She held up her phone and I could see images that made my throat tighten. I reported it to the counselor, but she told me Mr. Hensley was conducting valuable research. I showed the vice principal and he said I needed to stop making trouble because Mr. Hensley brings in funding to the school. "Dawn, why didn't you come to me?" "Because Mom, I'm 15. Adults never believe kids when it's their word against a teacher's word. He wasn't just doing it to 1 or 2 animals. He had a whole schedule written on the whiteboard with horrible experiments planned out." Mr. Hensley was shaking his head and kept looking at the door like he wanted to leave. He avoided looking directly at the images on Dawn's phone. The principal spoke up. "Mr. Hensley, I think we need to have a separate conversation. Dawn, I'm going to need copies of those photos." Dawn forwarded everything to the principal's email right there in the office. I let them all go because it was the only way to make sure someone would actually stop him and help the animals. As long as they were in his classroom, he could do whatever he wanted and everyone would look the other way. The next day, the school board announced Mr. Hensley had been terminated.